To start off, has to do with something that actually happened a couple of days ago, but now the repercussions are being seen on Twitter. And it has to do with a data leak that happened called Blue Leaks, in which a number of, 296 gigs of data was leaked in relation to certain police organizations and their data that they had on file. So it's estimated about 200 U.S. police departments had their data dumped in a giant leak that came from a site called DDoSecrets. So this is kind of like a WikiLeaks style group that specifically targeted police documents. These hackers put this out. It came out on Friday, and they're anonymous, so we don't know exactly who they are, but they did have a big Twitter following to where they were promoting everything on Twitter. Now Twitter has banned that organization, DDoSecrets, on there. And this is interesting for a couple of reasons. One, I mean, it's a huge amount of data that was leaked out with this, so there's all the ramifications of that, but also Twitter banning this gives a little bit of an insight to where Twitter is going, and we see them very actively now, sometimes putting notifications on accounts or flagging something as misinformation or violating their terms. One thing that people have noted is that WikiLeaks itself wasn't banned on Twitter, even though they did obviously a huge data dump as well. But yet this one was selected for being banned from Twitter. So there's a little bit of confusion on that. People are looking for answers from Twitter as far as why and what exactly the reasoning is behind everything and why one is being banned and not another one. But that kind of ties into the entire thing with social media accounts and platforms and how they make their decisions. It's a mystery to some of us sometimes. So that is what it is right there, though. But that is Twitter banning the Blue Leaks publisher DDoSecrets. We've got more details about that at digitaltrends.com. Continue on, keeping you up to date, and privacy and information is really a theme here this morning as we get started on the show. There's another thing going on with a Senate bill that is being passed around that may go to a vote. So this is a number of Republicans from the Senate Judiciary Committee has put this out, while Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Lindsey Graham is leading this, and some other Republican senators. And it's an act called the Lawful Access to Encrypted Data. And what this would do is it's battling against the idea of unbreakable encryption. So encryption is something that a lot of people, a lot of consumers have wanted. They want their data to be protected. You think about things like end-to-end encryption when it comes to messaging apps. And this would be a workaround where legally law enforcement would be able to get authorization to get access to that data, meaning companies would have to allow access to it if they had the legal justification to do it. And right now, clearly there isn't anything really like that. If data is encrypted, law enforcement, generally speaking, can't get into that, but this is something that would wrap around that, and obviously there's a lot of ramifications of that. If this were to pass, there's a lot of discussion on this on both sides of how that could work out. Sometimes people say for criminal acts you need to get access to the data, and others say, well, it's your personal data, it should be protected. And we've certainly seen examples of that, in particular when it comes to the iPhone. We know that a lot of different criminal organizations have tried to crack into iPhones. Some of them have been successful by going through third parties, but Apple's usually refused to work with them to a certain extent on any of that stuff. And so this would kind of make a different dent in that, to where legally, in theory, they would have to do that. But certainly it's a big push by them. And again, just to make you aware of that, so it's the Lawful Access to Encrypted Data Act, and something that's being proposed right now as a bill where police organizations would have access to smartphones, apps, or whatever kinds of forms of communication. That's what's going on. Want to make sure you're up to date. One final thing here, just at the top, there is, speaking of data, an app that's getting a lot of press today, and it's an app called Jumbo, and this is something that will actually, in theory, help protect your data. And we had someone of our writers who actually tried it out, and there's a lot of people talking about this. And what it'll do is essentially sync all of your online accounts. And when you think about when you sign up for an account and those privacy settings and the notifications that you get, how many people actually read those? We generally don't. I mean, let's be honest. So this would kind of help you set your privacy settings and actually even delete old posts on a number of different platforms, and that's like Facebook and Twitter, and they're saying that now they've just added on Instagram and LinkedIn and Messenger, and it's kind of like a digital privacy assistant is how it's been described, where you log into all of your accounts through that. It can comb through your profiles. It can let you know, where you have some holes in it, where you're being maybe tracked for some advertising, and really give you a lot of information about it, and then doesn't store the data. So Jumbo, again, is the name of the app, and it is getting a lot of press today for some new updates that they have, some new different platforms that they have as far as a paid account even for where you can get even more access to certain kinds of things. But it's all controlling it through one specific app. And I highly suggest going to digitaltrends.com and taking a look at the article that we have up that kind of walks through how it works. But Jumbo, something you're probably going to hear about today. Moving on here with trending news topics. Let's get through these for you. We've got Ford making an announcement that they plan to go carbon neutral by 2050. So going carbon neutral by 2050 would be a pretty big achievement for a major auto manufacturer that's, for the most part, has gas vehicles. And they're saying they're going to focus on 3 different ways to do that. They're going to have technology is going to be one of their big things that they're going to be talking about. They said that the 3 key sources that make up 95% of its carbon dioxide emissions, and that's what they're going to focus on. So they're going to try to contain a lot of that, and that comes from the manufacturing, comes from the vehicles itself in a number of different ways. So with that, they're one of a number of companies who are making these pledges. This would put them in line with what the Paris Agreement would be. So it's another move by major auto manufacturers to try to curtail some of the output that they have. So Ford making that announcement. We've got the details of Digital Trends, but definitely a big move on their part. So by 2050, 30 years seems like a long time, but it is an auto manufacturer, so I guess that's how long it would take to do that, to become carbon neutral. But that's what Ford has announced. Continuing on with trending news topics, we've got Amazon considering maybe adding live TV to Prime Video. And this is, I've got some interesting statistics when it comes down to this. So when you think about the streaming wars and all of the different platforms that you can stream on, only a few of them have live television involved. You've got YouTube, it's got it. Hulu's got it. Netflix does not have it. And this would be something where if Amazon were to add into this, and they've dabbled with this a little bit before. They do have some Premier League games that are going to be playing live on there. They've done some NFL things before as well. But this would be the idea of adding a complete suite of live broadcast television. And this is based upon some reports of a bunch of hiring that they're doing right now, where it essentially would be that. I mean, there's a product manager for Prime Video linear TV, so that's kind of spells it out for someone who, quote, would redefine how customers watch 24/7 linear broadcast TV content. So that really does say a lot of it. And one of the reports that actually came out of this said that although video on demand is on the rise, the global viewing hours weighs in favor of live or scheduled TV and OTT linear streaming, which is predicted to grow by 64% in the next 2 years. Live OTT programming is going to grow by 64% in the next 2 years. So, I'm just pointing that out right here. We're live right now. Thanks, everybody, for joining in. Hit that subscribe button. This is Digital Trends Live. So that's, anyway, something that Amazon is looking at possibly doing is adding in live content right there. And finally here, speaking of live content, starting on Thursday and going through the weekend will be yet another Fortnite concert. Diplo, Noah Cyrus, Young Thug, and probably some other people that are going to show up in this too. It's Diplo Presents Thomas Wesley is the name of the whole thing. And they said it's going to be an all-new sound where the frontier and future collide. These have been hugely popular, these concerts, as you know if you've been attending them. They're going to have a bunch of different outfits that are now available. They've also got they've just announced today that they're going to have some movies that are going to be involved. So they're going to be showing 3 Christopher Nolan movies over the weekend that people can go and watch together: Batman Begins, Inception, and The Prestige. So all those will be playing as part of this concert series as well, part of their Party Royale series of concerts that they've been doing. Definitely highly successful. You can read more about that at digitaltrends.com.